Like I could have been CMO multiple times. I've had so many different CMO offers, and someone actually said to me as like, why are you not a CMO yet? What's wrong with you?
Hey, welcome to another episode of Marketing Against the Grain. I'm your host, Kipp Bodnar. I am joined, as always, by my very special co-host, Kieran Flanagan. We have a sick show today. It's a little sad. It's a little sad because we're going to break some news in the show, so stay tuned for that. But we are talking about how to not fuck up your career today on the show. It is the start of the year. There's a lot of people that are thinking about their next steps. They're thinking about resolutions. They're thinking about what their professional life looks like. And so we wanted to do a special career. And we're marketing folks, so we'll talk a little bit more about the marketing career path, but most of what we're going to share is going to apply to everybody. So we are talking about how to not fuck up your career today on Marketing Against the Grain. We have an impetus for this episode that we want to share with everybody, Kieran, which is you and I have worked together at HubSpot for a long time. And you have made a decision to take a new job and become a CMO at an awesome company. And so I want you to tell everybody just briefly about that. And then I want to talk about kind of careers and journeys and how do you make decisions like this and how do we give people the information they need to make the best choices in their careers?
Yeah, I think I've been here 10 years. Actually, I've made it all the way to 10 years. If you told me that when I joined, I would not have believed you. Tech usually has like short lifetimes. And I've done a lot of things. And then, I decided that it was time to go try something new. So I'm going to go be CMO for Zapier and also kind of lead the self-serve charge. So we've talked a lot. There's, the marketing axis and then the kind of like go-to-market growth axis. And I've always struggled because I like being at the middle.
Yeah,
I like being in the middle of those things.
Between those things, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that talking to Wade and Zapier, there's just the perfect opportunity to go and do that for them, and a pretty interesting time to join that company.
So congrats to you. Congrats to Wade and the Zapier team who gets the best marketer I know. So congratulations there. So Kieran is obsessed with product-led growth, and so he's making a very thoughtful choice in his career. So I want to talk with you though, Kieran. You and I have both made some, I would say probably counterintuitive career choices in our lives. And I want to talk about that with you today because there are a lot of people listening right now where we're basically in a global recession. There are probably a lot of people who switched jobs during the peak of the economic frenzy, and they're kind of think about what they're doing. They might be laid off from a job because of the crazy economic times. Like there's a lot of different changes in the job markets. I wanted to start with, you and I both worked at the same place for a long time. You worked at HubSpot for a decade. I've worked at HubSpot for will be 13 years on March 1st.
Oh, wow.
Which is pretty bananas.
That is bananas.
And I want to come with my first lesson, and I want to see if you agree with it. My number one piece of advice to everyone out there is to have a remarkable career, you need to do remarkable work. And doing remarkable work takes time. Any problem we're solving cannot be solved super quickly. It doesn't mean decades, but it means years, right? And I think there is a level of patience that is necessary in a career. I think most people switch jobs too quickly because they want a short-term compensation change or they want a short-term title change. And what happens is they sub-optimize their actual long-term career. It's like, cool, I make 10% more money in the short term, or I have a step up in title in the short term, but I don't actually have the skills and experience to really excel. And because of that, I'm kind of stunted and stuck at that part of my career for kind of the rest of my career, which is a terrible, terrible place to be. So do you agree with this, Kieran? Am I a crazy person? Like, what do you think that the role of patience plays in your career?
One of the things I've always kind of the way that I've approached my career is I think of everything in 2-year stints. Like I think of everything in a 2-year package.
He's not joking. We would have conversations every 2 years about what was going on.
And the reason for me, maybe I think other people are better. I'm just able to distill things down to 2-year blocks and say like, what is the mission within this 2 years? And I think it takes 2 years to achieve something meaningful.
I agree.
And you also have to think then within that 2 years, how am I leveraging the skill set I have and how am I learning net new things? And I think the older you get, like I do think that changes as you get older. And one of the things I've realized is actually, and this is why I'm grateful for having joined HubSpot is having one success behind you gives you so much more freedom. And it's so hard to have one success in tech.
It's
actually really hard to have join the company in an early stage, go public, and actually when you're public, do really well. So I think it's, there isn't an element of luck, but that frees you up to now I just think about, do I enjoy who I work with and am I having fun? Which isn't really, I see people posting, because it's now January, I see people posting OKRs for their life. And maybe that's a good thing.
Get a life, people.
That's just not my thing. My thing is I want to have fun. I want to solve cool problems and I want to work with cool people. And if that's happening, then I don't put myself under pressure to go, I should actually be a CMO now. I'll tell you a quick story. I could have been CMO multiple times. I've had so many different CMO offers, and someone actually said to me why are you not a CMO yet? What's wrong with you? You could have been a CMO ages ago. I'm like, look at the work I'm doing. I've just bought a company. I'm doing M&A deals. I'm building stuff that you don't get the opportunity to build, but I wouldn't have had that unless I was very focused on that 2-year, am I working on something cool? Am I solving cool problems? And what can I get done that's meaningful within that kind of 2-year period? Now, I will say one quick thing, because I have been pretty outspoken on titles don't matter. And I actually don't.
But you're going to kind of go back. You're going to talk out of both sides of your mouth now. It's okay.
Yeah, well, someone pushed back at me. And what they said actually did resonate. And not for me, because
let's have the title argument.
They don't matter to me. Honestly, the problem matters to me. But to have the problems you want, at some point, you do need the title to go with those problems. But one thing they said to me was actually different from that. They said, it is easy to say that titles do not matter when you have the title. So they would say to you, Kipp, it's easy for you to say being a CMO or a VP of marketing does not matter because you've been CMO for one of the most successful companies in tech. And they were saying this about me as they were, I think, a director, they wanted to be a VP. And they were like, it's easy for you to say that. You have the title. And I thought that was actually a very fair pushback, because it's hard to
I think it's a total bullshit pushback.
Go for it then, because I actually thought it was a fair pushback. Because you know what? Before I joined HubSpot, every day I would wake up, look at my whiteboard, and I would want to be a marketing director for a phenomenal tech company. And I lived in Ireland, and I tell you what, that is hard to do.
That was rough.
Back in those days in Ireland.
Dude, you and I were together in Ireland in those days, and it was real. Here's why I think that's bullshit, right? Because the second you have something in life, think about something. Think about something you've wanted.
Yeah.
You want the next thing.
You do want this. Is human. So this is the biggest problem with humans.
Stupid argument. It's like me saying it'd be like you saying oh yeah, you of course can say a CMO title doesn't matter because you're a CMO. I'm like, but I could go be a CEO of a company and I could really care about that. But I don't, because that's not what is interesting to me right now. And I want to do different things, and I want to work with people that I really love and get a lot of value working with. So I think that is totally a flawed argument.
One thing, so someone said to me, I really agree with this, is hey, you change roles, you get the title, and I want to actually say something really funny here, but you get your 5 minutes of fame on LinkedIn. Oh, I'm leaving. Now, I have kind of done this, but Jason Lemkin actually tweeted, I don't know if you saw his tweet, is wow, my LinkedIn profile is just full of people talking about leaving their job. And I was like, oh shit, I just posted one of those. But yeah, everything to do with the biggest problem with humans is the instant you get your thing, that thing has faded. The kind of feeling you get from that thing has faded, and you're just left with the work. So that's why you really need to think about the actual work, because the title will not make you feel better when you are doing work that you do not enjoy with people you do not like working with.
Here's my take for you and everybody. My take is, if you are living for the affirmation of others, that is a sad fucking life.
Yeah, this is true.
And the second you care what anybody else thinks, I would argue that a title is a proxy for the thing that I actually care about. The thing you actually care about, I think there are a couple things. One is doing interesting work. The other thing is, it's the Hamilton song, right? Want to be in the room where it happened, happened, right? You want access to a group of people, right? And if a title grants you access to a group of people that you can learn from and you can work on cool things with, then that's great. If you don't need that title to get that access, then who the hell cares? Who the hell cares?
This is actually the best point you've made on this topic, actually. This is the best point you've made. It's the access. I know people who did not have the title, but had roles where they had access to like all of the execs in HubSpot or work directly with them. I think one of the most interesting roles right now in tech is actually chief of staff. And I've seen former
100%.
founders and things like that go be chief of staff because you're working in tandem with the CEO.
Let's restate this for everybody. If you are working in a career that's not starting your own startup and you're trying to work with great leaders and learn from great leaders, then the thing to solve for is not your title and compensation. It is to get into the room where it happens.
Like at some point you reach an age and you're like, I need to solve for compensation.
Well, I'm telling you that the other two are a natural byproduct of the first.
That.
We could bring on 5 people onto the show that we all know, that we both know and are great friends with, who started off as interns or chief of staff to executives and are now amazing, successful executives much faster than everybody else.
Yeah.
Because they prioritized the right thing.
Right.
Do it for yourself and for the interest in the problems you want to solve, not for the affirmation of others or for what other people say or think about you. Everybody out there is just insecure and jealous of everybody else.
So first of all, I think that is a very hard thing to not have, especially in tech. Like I've had this is like comparison. You compare yourself to...
Yeah, you totally...
You compare yourself to everyone.
We've had a lot of comparison conversations.
Yeah. So I think if you can get over that, that is a big hurdle to come over. And I think part of getting over that is getting somewhat confidence in yourself. Like I hear all the time when you're managing a lot of people, everyone has imposter syndrome and they think it's unique to them. It's actually not unique to anyone within tech. Like most people in tech have this. And
I think most people in the world have it. Most people in life
I think
have it.
it's really prevalent in tech. And someone told me before, and I think I mentioned this in the pod, that they talked to a lot of recruiters within tech, and the best people they could hire were people who had deep imposter syndrome and were brilliant because they were constantly trying to like battle against everyone else to prove their worth. And so I think if you can get over that part, maybe a title actually helps you get over that part, but the access part is just so important. And I do see people, if you solve for title versus interest in work, that's where it all goes wrong.
I've seen it go wrong more times than I can count.
Because you're doing like a CMO job. You call yourself a CMO, you're managing 5 people. And
you're doing a director of marketing job at some shitty company.
What actually happens is you go to your next job and you've been titled a CMO and that person is trying to look at you because you're really a director or even a senior manager of marketing in another company. And you're trying to like squash those things together. And it makes it really hard to kind of like put you into that like frame, even though that's where your skill set is. And so you have to make sure that people have the right expectations for where you are within your career as well. And so you don't actually want to grow fast and accelerate fast, but not beyond your capabilities, because you don't want to have like a succession of things that you've just not been able to like meet the bar on.
Okay. So we're saying the number one way to not fuck up your career is to have patience. And patience manifests itself in a few different ways. It manifests in that worthy problems take a while to solve. Kieran, you talked about how you do these 2-year stints. And there's a byproduct of those 2-year stints that I want to emphasize for people because I think it's very important that you didn't cover. And I actually don't even know if you are aware of. Most people that I know who have imposter syndrome, who are kind of insecure about themselves, you know what they spend a lot of their time doing? Second guessing themselves. And they don't just second guess their work, they second guess their place in life. They say, should I really be in this job? Should I be doing this other thing? Like, what should I be doing? Right? And your 2-year stints takes away the second guessing. I'm all in.
Right.
You know how you are great at something? You go all in. If you are not all in, you are by the very nature undercutting your ability to be successful. And one of the things that I thought was brilliant over our time working together about your like, hey, I'm going to do this 2-year sprint or stint on this type of work is you were always fully all in on it. And the power of being all in is something that nobody talks about in their career. You know, in San Francisco, it basically got cool to flip jobs and trade, get options, all of those things. That's all stupid. At the end of the day, I think that is stupid, and it's solving for the short term over the long term. And the way to really solve for the long term, find interesting work with great people and be all in. Like that's the 3-step cheat sheet to living a happy life where you have more money than you need. Like 100%. I promise you, everyone.
And then the other thing about that is like I'm at my unhappiest when I don't know if I should be doing the thing that I'm doing. Like that's when I'm just not happy. I'm like, I'm doing this thing, but I'm not sure if this is the right thing for me to be doing. I love just going, oh, this is the thing I'm doing for the next 2 years, and I don't have to think about that. I don't have to think about it. I'm just like, this is the thing I'm doing.
Constraints are great, people. If you are unhappy, if you are feeling uncertain or not believing in yourself, it is largely because you do not have enough constraints in your life and because you care too much about what other people think.
And the other thing about 2 years is it kind of reduces the burden to think about your life plan. That's the reason I did it, is 100%. Because I can't think beyond, I just don't have the whole like, I want to be here at this time and I want to be here. I'm just like, that stuff will take care of itself if you actually do cool stuff and you have like meaningful impact wherever you are.
So we're talking about the byproducts of patience in your career. I'm going to talk about another way to have a great career, not fuck up your career. And this one's going to deeply resonate with you, Kieran, and it's not me patting myself on the back. But if you want to be happy, you need to work with a leader who doesn't micromanage you, who trusts you, and have real autonomy. And it's hard. It's basically impossible to have that if you keep switching jobs. Trust is built over time, right? It's very hard if you change jobs every 18 months to ever work for somebody who's like, oh yeah, I completely trust you. You have all the autonomy in the world and you can go do this stuff. That is a rare thing in this world. And when you get it, it is magical. And you can only get it through long-term relationships.
Yeah, I think you should pat yourself in the back. I think you're incredible at those things. And your manager will dictate most of how you feel about a company.
And that's all the data. All the data is like people quit managers, not jobs, right? Like we know that. Jobs. We know that.
And all of the things you said are the things that I think resonate with people, like autonomy, set out good problems, build a relationship with, trust. And you can't, it is really hard to do that it takes like, it depends at the level you're at. But if you're at a really senior level, it really takes 6 months to even like get your feet under you.
Well, this is my last point before we move on to the next segment of the show that I want to cover, which is context matters. Having knowledge and context and deep understanding of problems. Kieran, I know you've been obsessed with like people who started really early in a company and progressed to be the CEO. I would love you to share that. That's because of context, because they understand how everything works, the people involved, all of those things.
I was really obsessed with this, so I did some looking around. I actually did some posts on this. One of my favorites actually is because I think they are Irish, is the CMO of Starbucks. Let me just try to get that.
Tell us more.
Now, I think they've changed.
The former CMO of Starbucks.
So the current CMO of Starbucks has been there for 21 years. They started as a marketing manager in 2001, worked their way up to a director by 2004, became a vice president in 2008, and then all the way to CMO in 2020. That is playing the long game, right? Like they have context across the entire company. One of the stories that I would share from my time at Salesforce actually is there was this guy called George who went on to become the CEO of Twilio, who I have a lot of stock in. I can't wait till that starts to rebound. Who's an amazing person, but he was in Salesforce as an intern. And the story about George Hu was Benioff really rated him and put him in every kind of department to have like these little missions and times leading these different departments. So we had full context of the company, readying him to become maybe the COO or CEO of Salesforce. And so when you see like great CEOs like Sundar from Google, I think he started as a software engineer back in 2004. The current CEO of Amazon, again, has been there like 20 odd years. You have context and you've worked across the entire group, so you can add real value. And so when you're thinking about joining a company and you look at your career, if you join a company that's growing, you're likely going to have a much more success if you stay there much longer, because you get better context of the business and you start to actually be able to make more meaningful decisions and make more meaningful suggestions because you have true context. And I think 6 months get your feet under you. A year, you can start to have like some impact on your team, but it takes a couple of years, I think, maybe a year, 16, 18 months, 2 years, when you can start to really drive some meaningful impact for that business because you have a lot of context around the problems and the challenges and the opportunities that are available to them.
I love that. And we've talked about the first half of how people screw up their careers. They are impatient. They make choices based on ego. They don't stay in roles long enough. We talked to you about all of the ways that you can avoid that mistake. The other 50% of how you screw up or fuck up your career comes by, on the other side, by picking the wrong job when you decide to switch jobs. Fortunately, I'm here with somebody who just picked a new job. And so I want to dive into that with you, Kieran, because you're a very smart and successful person. No shortages of options in the world. You could have gone and done a whole host of things. Talk us through like how you thought about that process and take us behind the scenes so that people can kind of copy your thinking and your strategy there.
Yes, I thought about this a lot. And you actually helped me think through this. So the first thing I started with, and this could be unique to people in our position, which is, do I want to continue being an operator or do I want to go do something else? And the something else for me is actually venture, consulting, and teaching. And the reason I would do that eventually is because I want to be able to manage and dictate my own time. Mm-hmm. And so I started there, and I was like, it depends. It depends like what operator opportunities there are and if they are actually really appeal to me. And the other way I thought about that was, if I go into the kind of venture individual contributor space, would I ever come back and do the operator role? And the reason I asked myself that was because if I do leave and I wouldn't come back, is there anything in the operator land that I would regret not having done before I leave? And the thing I would have regret not having done is like really kind of, an iteration of the CMO role for an incredible company, and really kind of had another cycle of growing a large PLG business and really trying to figure out the problems that come with that. And I really love the kind of like 100 million to 1 billion kind of journey. So I really thought about that. And then within that, it's not actually that complicated in how I thought about it. You actually mentioned it. It's like really simplistic. Do I really like the company? Do I really like the people? Do they have really interesting problems that they're trying to solve? And for me, one of the things I had to think about, because I'm in Ireland, it's not so big of a deal in the States, is like remote first would be ideal. One last thing I'll leave with in terms of like, how do I feel about the company and the product? One of the reasons I love working at HubSpot is because whenever you say, like, let's face it, we're a B2B tech company, right? In the grand scheme of things you can do in the world, it's B2B tech. And one of the reasons I loved it working at HubSpot is because anytime you said to people, for the most part within the industry, I worked at HubSpot, they're like, oh, I love those guys. I love that company. That's cool, right? People feel the same way about Zapier. Like anytime I mention Zapier or say, I'm talking to Zapier or I'm joining Zapier, I haven't told that many people, like, oh, I love those guys. Oh, wait, that crew are so cool. And that actually makes things a little bit better, a little bit easier for you, because the people already feel some kind of way.
Well, so let me try to break down for everybody what you just unpacked in that process, right? The first thing you did is you were really honest with yourself. You said, hey, here are the couple of paths that work that I am interested in. And it wasn't like, oh, here's what the world thinks I should do. Here's what I'm interested in, right? And that's a very powerful first step. And then you said, okay, you use the famous Bezos framework. One of the core frameworks of Amazon is a decision-making framework, which is the most important part is, are there decisions that you can't undo? You can't walk back.
That's a good one.
Right? And that's basically what Kieran did here, is he said, oh, I know if I went to be a venture capitalist, for example, that the likelihood of me going and then being a CMO after that's probably pretty low. That's a very different skill set, lifestyle, everything. So that is probably a door I can't walk back through. And so that door is closed behind me. So maybe I want to do something before I walk through that door I can't walk back through. And so that is a very, very important lesson in all of this. And so he used that as a forcing function to kind of narrow down your choices, which I thought was really smart. And then I think the thing that was really brilliant that you kind of glossed over that I want everybody to understand is, you were like, I really like working at a company that's from $100 million in revenue to $1 billion in revenue. And that phase of development, that is really important. Most people don't spend enough time thinking about like, oh, what is the type of company? Where is it at in its scale? And are those the type of problems I am most interested in? And I think you were very clear and honest with yourself about those, which is pretty awesome, right? Because you and I have seen lots of journeys. I can tell you what a company looks like at 10 million, 50 million, 100 million, so forth, right?
They look different.
It's very different.
Very
and so
different.
If you know where, and even if you are unsure, go ask some people who have been at companies at those stages and have them describe to you what it's like and what those differences are, because that is going to increase the likelihood that you're going to be much happier in that new role, and that you're setting the right expectations with that new team that you're working with. So I thought there was a bunch of gold buried in that process that I wanted to make sure everybody watching really was able to take away as they're thinking about what might be their next career move coming up.
Yeah, I think the big thing is don't overthink it, because I've talked to people and wow, they have like incredible frameworks. The reality is any role may not be what you think it is, and that's fine. Then you can go do something else. Like, don't build up the negative. You know I'm good at doing that, Kipp.
I've got a print right beside my desk that says "Overthinking will fucking kill you."
I've been in Kipp's house, which is awesome. I love it.
I just showed it for the folks on YouTube, and it's awesome. And because it is the easiest thing to do is to overthink something, right? And man, you got to stop overthinking things to like really have it work. And I think especially you are more likely to overthink things when they come like down to yourself, right? Like you're less likely to overthink things that are other people's activities, actions, but you're like, oh, this is my future. This is my career. I have to get it right. And it's very, very easy to just be paralyzed with options and overthink it and either do nothing or make a bad choice.
I think some of that comes from being fortunate enough to have like one win under your belt does give you the freedom to not, it will be fine. I'm sure that I think it's going to be great. I think everything's going to work out. But if it didn't, like worst case scenario, it will be fine. It will be fine. And so I think the main thing that I've learned is I think I'm in a unique position in some ways from a lot of people that I hire or work with or speak with in tech, because I had a career that I really didn't succeed at and did not enjoy and made me deeply unhappy, because I've always been a career motivated person. And I was a software engineer, and I was like, the story behind a software engineer is when you don't have a lot of money in Ireland, we're fortunate enough that we get given grants, and the grant allows you to go to college. But if you go to college on a grant and you realize you're in the wrong course, you're unable to switch. So if you paid for that yourself, you can switch to another course. If you are on a grant, you cannot switch to another course within 1 week. We couldn't.
That's a stupid system, Ireland. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we couldn't afford a computer, right? So I chose to do computers, and so my first time switching on a computer was really when I was going to university. And within 1 week, I was like,
Maybe this isn't for me.
I don't think this is for me. And so I tried to move to business and computing. So I stuck out engineering, and I was like, maybe I'll try to really make a go of this. But learning a language, it either sticks or it doesn't stick, and it wouldn't stick. And so I know what it felt like to have a career that not enjoy. And so when I found something I really enjoyed, I was like, it's kind of all good. The bad times are better than the bad times when I had a career I didn't enjoy. The good times are fucking infinitely better than the good times when I had a career I didn't enjoy. And so having that experience where you're like, I know what it's like to do something I don't enjoy. And I found something that I do enjoy and I'm good at, it changes everything. And so I would say to people is, if you can get that feeling, I'm doing this thing, I enjoy it and I'm good at it, that alone will make you much more successful and much more happier.
Well, it turns out the happier you are, the better your work is, right?
Yes, exactly.
I think that is a hopefully really good perspective on how to think about choosing the next step in your career. Because I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with. I think Kieran was really kind to just kind of unpack the full transparency of kind of how he thought about it. But Kieran, before we go, you were at HubSpot for 10 years. Lots of things transpired. What is your favorite funny HubSpot memory?
Dude, some of my favorite, this has been a movie for me, from someone who grew up in a small village in Ireland and really always wanted to work with a US tech company in any kind of form. Honestly, I can't even describe how this has just been a movie for me working with HubSpot. But some of my funniest times, because we've had a lot. When I first joined HubSpot, and I was I won't say who said it to me, and I was at the first inbound event, and we had the after party, and someone came up to me and says, it's been interesting to get you. The way that people think about you is you're a weird, awkward guy, but when you get to know you, you're cool. And I was like, oh, thank you. You got me in one. All right, so I was in Germany doing this talk in Cologne, and the German train station is really built just to frustrate foreigners. Like, honestly, I think they have like deeply thought about, if you are a foreigner and you really don't understand our language and train system, how can we really like fuck with your mind? And so I'm like looking at the train station. I don't understand anything that's going, like any of these directions, and I have to get back to Frankfurt because that's where my plane is going back to Dublin. And so I run around all the different trains, and I think to myself, like most normal people would say, well, I'll ask someone. I said, I will get on a train and hope for the best. And then I got on this train, and I'm sitting there, and it's 5 minutes until it takes off. And I sit down, and I'm fortunate enough to sit beside a couple who speak English. And so what would a normal person do? They would say, is this train going to Frankfurt? That for some that is reasonable and very, very normal. I'm sitting there going, oh, I should really ask this couple, is this train going to Frankfurt? And I think about it. And the clock's going tick, 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 tick. And then the train door, they close, right? They just close. And I go, as soon as they went, I went, is this train going to Frankfurt? No, it is going the opposite direction for 3 hours direct with no stops. And so I missed my flight. I just stay on this bloody train. I think I don't know where I am, Dusseldorf or somewhere, and I ended up.
Yeah, you were in Dusseldorf.
I missed my flight, so that was a good story. One thing you want to do is like have some rituals, like you, me, and John Dick, who is the other phenomenal SVP at HubSpot. We have the ritual whenever you come to Dublin. We have like these really good things that we do every Sunday. We meet the same bar, we do the same kind of restaurants and pubs, and every time we've done that has been the best time. One of the other things that I really enjoyed was, if you can do this, now this is going to sound like outlandish. We had this favorite Mexican restaurant that we would always go to, and
it's closed. R.I.P. that
It's
restaurant.
closed. R.I.P. that restaurant. And so we had a bar, the Long Hall, which we loved, which was a couple of doors up from this 777, this Mexican restaurant. Now, we had a few Irish drinks, on a Sunday after some football, all above board. And then we went into the Mexican, and we were like looking through this menu, and the waitress comes over and goes, what do you want? We're like, we will have the entire menu.
We ordered the menu.
We're
like, we'll have it all.
No, just do that once, because it's so badass.
It's so fun. It's so fun to tell somebody, I'll take the menu.
I'll take the menu. And they looked at you and we're like, yes.
They were like, yes, you will.
That's where this is going, and a jug of margaritas.
Yeah, they're like, you also are going to just have margaritas, aren't you? Yeah. We're like, of course we are. Yeah, we're gonna fantastic. I love those. Those are some amazing stories. Kieran's an amazing go-karter, but I remember when I first went go-karting with Kieran, he left his wallet in the office. And like we had to circle back around in the cab because you couldn't even, you forget a lot of things and aren't good with directions.
Here's what I do. Any space I sit down on, this is the first part's
gonna
sound weird.
Out?
It's not gonna sound, it sound weird, but it's not weird. I take my belt off. I don't know.
That sounds actually way worse.
Sorry. I put my phone out, put my wallet out, take my shoes and socks off. Anywhere, like in the office at HubSpot, when we were like first building out the office, I would be walking around in my bare feet all the time.
So if you ever see Kieran, make sure he has all of his personal belongings. If like we're doing a live pod somewhere and we're about to leave and you're hanging out talking with us,
and my trousers fall down as I'm walking around you, like my trousers randomly fall down, it's because I forgot my belt.
But Kieran, the HubSpot journey was amazing. I'm so glad that we get to do the pod and we get to talk all the time still, because I'd be really sad otherwise. Expect everybody watching and listening to get just as much banter, because we basically just WhatsApp each other every day and everything anyway. So no shortage of anything there. We're going to get some extra perspective and insight from all things Zapier. Congrats to Kieran on becoming the CMO of Zapier. I hope that everybody loved our breakdown of careers today. Start of the year, we thought it was a perfect time to do it. Also coincided with Kieran's move. If you have any questions, drop those in the comments. Kieran and I read all of those on YouTube, and we'll get back to you. Until next time, this has been Marketing Against the Grain. We'll see you real soon.
This data is wrong every freaking time.
Have you heard of HubSpot? HubSpot is a CRM platform where everything is fully integrated.
Whoa, I can see the client's whole history, calls, support tickets, emails, and here's a task from 3 days ago I totally missed.
HubSpot, grow better.